Hello, everybody. Welcome again. My name is MJ, and this is All Things Crunchy. I am very excited to talk tonight to my expert here. I'll bring her up, Julia Jones. Hello there.
Hey there, how are you?
Doing great, doing great. How are you?
Very good. Yes, I'm very pregnant, but very happy.
Awesome. Yes, we planned this so that it would be before the baby, so you could relax hopefully after. So Julia is all the way in Western Australia, and she is a postpartum doula. I kind of got connected to you through my brother in sin, we call him, my sister's partner. I believe. I think that's how we got connected. Is that right? Through
I think so, yes.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
A long time
Um,
ago, actually.
Yeah, it was a while ago. So thank you, Mr. Raul, for connecting us, and we finally got together. Tonight we are going to talk about one of a topic that's really passionate for me, always was, and even though I'm not nursing my son anymore, unfortunately, we did make it to 4.5 years. And it's kind of a bitter sweet thing because I really miss it. But we're going to talk tonight about breastfeeding problems and just about what happens when you don't have the support and when you have unrealistic expectations. And I think that this is going to be a really helpful episode for a lot of people. I'm going to let girl, you
Hi,
want to mute
everyone. Sorry.
yourself? All right, perfect. So Julia, before we start, getting into the topic, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself? Maybe how you got to do what you're doing, talk about your work, and maybe a little bit about yourselves personally if you want to.
Sure. I'm Julia. I'm a postpartum doula, and my background is in Ayurveda, in Indian medicine, and that's kind of what linked me into postpartum stuff. And then I just got really passionate about postpartum. And now what I really work with is looking not just at Indian medicine, but at how all traditional cultures have these universal traditions around postpartum that are really so beneficial to mums. And from there, I kind of jumped into neuroscience and hormones and having a really good look at basically what I call baby brain, and how actually your brain changes when you have a baby, and how that this is like actually a really awesome thing, even though it's not really valued in our culture. But then looking at how other cultures and all of these universal traditions that I'd found are actually promoting baby brain and the right kind of hormones and things to be happening in your brain, and tying that all together was just like completely life-changing for me. And and then since then I've worked with hundreds of mothers, and now focusing on training other birth professionals as well in these advanced postpartum techniques, and really looking at how we can bring back some of these. I call it a postpartum renaissance. That we can bring back some of these traditions in the modern world.
Yes, yeah, I really never understood the fourth trimester, that postpartum era until I actually was in it, and it's just something that is like it's really kind of lost. And thank you for trying to bring it back because there's just as far as the time goes of being pregnant and having the birth and the labor and everything, that is so quick. And then that postpartum, that's what we really need the support in. And it's huge to have that postpartum support and even education the things that you're talking about that you have kind of come upon in the stuff that you're doing. So thank you for joining me tonight and bringing us to talk about this topic. So OG, my partner in crime there, she joined us. If you want to say hi.
Hi, mamas. Sorry I was late, but Google can be capricious. So nice to meet you. I can't wait to hear all about what you have to talk about, because I think it's fascinating, and I think that right now, particularly in our culture, birth, it's kind of it's like going in and getting your oil changed, for a lot of people, and instead of, like you said, focusing on what happens afterwards.
Yeah.
Sirens.
Erin lives downtown. She lives in downtown San Diego.
I'm going to mute myself, but yay, go!
Yes, and so Erin actually, OG Mamacita, she has multiple names, but I believe, Mama, you are still nursing Cash, correct? Yes, and he will be 5 years old at the end of this year, but he's a little over 4. So,
we're doing that whole natural lead weaning kind of thing. So hopefully it'll be soon. God.
Yeah. Well, it looks like you got lots of busy stuff going on there behind you. We're seeing downtown San Diego in action. So, Julia, I'm going to hand it over to you. I know that you sent me some points of things that you wanted to talk about. And so I'm just, let's just start chatting and we'll have a conversation going here.
Sure. Just picking up on a couple of things that can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
You mentioned the 4th trimester, and I know that's kind of like what we call it these days, but it's actually not my favorite word, because the 4th trimester tends to focus on the baby. Nearly everything we do in our culture focuses on the baby, but I'm a really strong believer that if we can create happy, healthy mums, then of course we're going to parent to our best abilities, and that's really what forms that beautiful time for the baby. So I really focus on, lots of people ask me for like infant care techniques and parenting styles and things, and I'm like, no, I just make you happy, and if you're happy, you're going to be the best mum that you can be. So that's really the angle I'm coming from, and again, really looking at how our brain changes when we become mothers. And so I wanted to start by telling you a story about a gorilla in Ohio Zoo. And it's in quite a few breastfeeding books, so a few people might have come across it before, but this is a true story. I actually contacted Ohio Zoo and asked them if is this just one of those urban legends, but they said no, it's actually true. And there was a gorilla that was born and raised in captivity in Ohio, and had never experienced breastfeeding, had never seen breastfeeding, had never been breastfed. It was and so it was a completely new experience, and I think it's a really good comparison for modern mothers, because we don't have this village around us anymore. Often we don't see people breastfeeding. Often our own mothers didn't breastfeed, and we don't have that that way of learning and seeing how kind of normal and natural it is. So what happened to this gorilla is when she tried to, she had a baby, it was all, really exciting and healthy, happy, no problems, and then she couldn't breastfeed. And they didn't really, know what to do, and sadly that baby ended up dying. And so when she fell pregnant again, they had to figure out, how do we support this mother in breastfeeding? And so you can't give a gorilla a textbook or a chart or diagrams. You can't get her to measure milk or pump, or weigh her baby. It just, none of those things actually help with breastfeeding. So what they did instead was they called the La Leche League and got the volunteer breastfeeding mothers to come and sit in front of the gorilla enclosure. And they sat there breastfeeding regularly throughout her pregnancy, and she, as the due date got closer, she became more curious. The gorilla's coming and watching, seeing what's happening over here. And when the baby's born, she still couldn't quite figure out what to do. And so they quickly called and said, "Quick, the baby's born. We need you to come and show her how to breastfeed." So the mums came back, and the human mums sat there and breastfed. And the gorilla came and watched, and she picked up her baby, held the baby to her chest, offered her breast, and the baby fed, and they had a beautiful healthy, normal breastfeeding relationship. And I think it's such a powerful story because it really shows that the way we learn as mothers, because we are essentially animals too, is through experiencing and feeling and seeing, and and a lot of the ways that modern women are taught to breastfeed are actually really sabotaging the way that their brain's designed to work at that stage in their lives.
Yeah. Thank you for correcting me.
Oh, it's not even a correction. I just like to shift people's thinking a little bit, that it's not all about the baby.
No, exactly. And I totally agree. I mean, more than ever now, I think one of the main things that I push to new moms is make sure you're getting the self-care in. And I put your website up here, newbornmothers.com. That is like exactly, I mean, what you're talking about here, because yes, we have a baby, but also we have this woman who is now a mother. And if we didn't grow up seeing certain things or, feeling certain things, then, I mean, this is like a fresh new baby, thrown in to, to do things that we don't know what to do, except that maternal instinct. That that's pretty much kind of what I fell on, because I didn't grow up necessarily seeing breastfeeding, but I knew that I wanted to do it. And I actually had a breast reduction, and I remember it was like when I was 20, so it was like 11 years, or God, 15 years before I had my baby. And I remember them saying, well, you have a 50-50 chance. So I was like, well, I'm just going to be positive that I can do it. But, I mean, I wouldn't change anything now, having gone through everything, but it's, that education, that factor that really, maybe wasn't even there at that time, way back when. But, I mean, I'm happy with the way that everything turned out. It's just, what could I have done, like different? But it would have been nice to have maybe even seen somebody in my family, nurse, and then like know that, geez, maybe you might have a problem with it if you actually go through with this surgery, and like have somebody, have my back to kind of educate me. Um, so very cool. Well, I think I actually, Erin, did you see that story? I think I did see that story on Facebook.
I did see it, and
Yeah.
I was blown away by it. And I was just asking a couple of girls here if they had been around breastfeeding when they grew up, specifically in regards to that story. And they both said, yeah, that it was a normal thing for them and out
Yeah.
in public and stuff. But that wasn't the case for me.
Yeah.
It's like, and I don't know if it's that now I'm in California or that I'm so much more aware of it, but it's like slowly becoming, women are starting to really get fed up about being stuffed in bathrooms and being shamed for it. So,
I'm really thankful that at least the community that we're in
right.
is, we
It's
don't
boobs
have,
galore. I mean,
yeah,
they're just like, it's free nipples all day, everywhere,
yeah. So we surrounded ourselves with those people in
Yeah.
for a certain reason. So
Around people where even, nursing each other's babies is,
mhm.
it's the norm. And
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
awesome.
exactly. So Julia, you just on the side of helping, our these newborn mothers out there. I mean, I just really love the aspect of, all of the science too that you're kind of bringing into it. And I don't think that a lot of us really understand that side of it, where our brain and our baby's brain, is affected by everything that happens from, being in womb to birth and then thereafter.
Yes, well, a lot of people understand that the first few years of a baby's life is very critical. So we're kind of just starting to gain some mainstream knowledge of the brain development in the womb during birth, and particularly people seem to have this idea that the first 3 years are the formative years for the brain, and it's true because your brain plasticity is much higher during those first 3 years. But what people don't realize is you have opportunities again throughout your life where naturally your brain plasticity will increase, and one of those moments is when you become a mother. So when you do become a mother, your brain plasticity increases, which can lead you to feel overwhelmed. Senses become heightened. You feel ungrounded and really often crave control and structure and routine and things like that. Because of this brain plasticity, it's just like everything's wide open, ready to learn new information.
So is it like our brains are expanding, or what's going on?
No.
Like creating more neural pathways?
Yes, exactly. So
Okay.
your brain has like a certain capacity. People say there's this myth that you only use 10% of your brain, but you don't. Your brain's a really expensive organ. It uses a lot of calories. There's no way that a human brain would be so big and so expensive if we weren't using all of it all the time. But what happens then is if you need to learn something new, you often need to rewrite things. You need to throw some stuff out, and you need to make space for the new skills that you're learning. So as a mother, a lot of the old skills that go out the window are the more masculine skills like maths and rational thinking and being task-oriented, goal-oriented, ambitious, So a lot of these things that
Those
we
are the
in our culture see.
longer things. They're not the immediate. And when you become a new mother, everything is about the immediate, keeping the kid alive. So I can see how figuring math out is worthless because that, unless it's to figure out a code to get me and my baby out.
Yes, and mothers do become better at problem solving. So there's things that mothers do become better at, which is assessing risk, so deciding whether something is worth it or not, for the survival of their child. Also interpreting nonverbal cues. So again, if we really embrace this this new brain, what I call baby brain, we are better mothers and happier mothers because we're letting nature take its course. But what happens these days is we're so stuck in valuing all of the masculine ways of knowing and learning and experiencing the world that we feel stupid or think there's something wrong with us.
Well, that mama brain, everybody kind of uses it as an excuse to explain this slip of the mind, but it's always with some kind of negative connotation to it, just like you're saying,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's the same thing. We really reject that when what we need to be doing is embracing that and owning this more feminine way of knowing and seeing the world, because that's what, as mothers, is going to serve us, our health, our happiness, and then, of course, our babies.
Yeah, I love that because it almost works out the way that it should, because if we're normally, well, no, maybe not normally, but a lot of moms have a good amount of time after they have a baby to be home with the baby. It's usually not, the man right away. It's usually the mom for a while. So, if we're going to be in that environment 24/7, mostly, I'd say maybe 90% taking care, maybe 80%, I don't know, but then, then we should be thinking a little bit differently.
Yes, and there are different things that happen in a man's brain than a woman's brain when we have a baby. A lot of women are really shocked that their husband gets a promotion at work or starts working longer hours, or when he's on his leave, he takes only a week or two off and he's on the roof doing the tiling or paving the back garden, or and the mums are like, what's wrong with you? Why aren't you completely obsessed with this baby in the same way that I am? But actually, usually what's going on with the dad is that his testosterone is increasing rather than his oxytocin. It's a perfect symbiotic relationship between the mother and the father, that he's the one guarding the house, keeping the wolves away, protecting the mother and baby, hunting, like and you need both of those aspects. Over time, it changes, and the more that men are involved in childcare, the more that their oxytocin increases. And usually by about men's oxytocin is thought to peak around 4 to 6 months after the baby's born, rather than immediately like it does for mum. So, if you've got a dad who co-sleeps, and you've got a dad who's baby wearing, and you've got a dad who's just really hands-on and involved in childcare, then he is going to develop his more feminine, because everyone, male or female, has these feminine and masculine kind of attributes. So it's just up to you as a family to decide what balance is going to work for you in the long run.
Yeah, definitely. Okay.
So cool. So what I come away with from this is that this is just another opportunity for women to tell men to shut the F up. It's like the way my brain is after having a baby isn't a bad thing. Stop making me feel bad about it. Stop shaming me, making me feel stupid, and making snide jokes about my baby brain. So F you.
Exactly.
It's a superpower. Your baby brain is a superpower.
It's what is it they call it? Mansplaining?
Yeah.
Where we've been mansplained into the 4th trimester. Women, let's just take that back. Thank you. Okay.
There you go. Julia, you actually shared something on Facebook that I thought was really cool. It was the new mom FUCKET bucket list. But you said LOL, here's what not to do. But I was wondering, I mean, because this list was like, don't worry about anything, don't do the dishes, don't do this, don't get up, like after you have a baby, you need to just pretty much say fuck it.
I stand behind that. 100%.
Well, I guess what you were saying was this is the don't do any of these. Don't feel guilty about anything. Don't function in any way, shape, or form. Don't organize stuff. I mean, you were agreeing with it, right?
Yeah, totally.
Okay. Don't do chores. This is great. I'm going to share this again because it's God, like I mean, you're in Australia. I mean, hopefully you guys are smarter than us over here and, are doing this the way that it should be. And where, like, if I have a child again, I will definitely be doing that. I will not be doing what I did, superwoman thinking I can handle everything. But I know there's a few. Oh, go ahead. I
was just going to say, to the flip side of that, rather than what not to do, the only 2 things I tell my clients to do, there's really only 2 jobs you have as a new mother. And one of them is falling in love, because that takes time. A lot of people don't realize that it's not always like an instant bond, but you need to get to know your baby. You need to adjust to their personality, help them to fit in with the family and that kind of thing. So your first job is falling in love. Your second job is learning to breastfeed, because it is something that's learned. So even though I'm saying that, you don't necessarily want books and charts and instructions and diagrams and measurements and all that kind of stuff isn't really helpful, because that's all the masculine way of approaching the problem. But it still is a learned skill, and you still need time, a lot of time to do that. So that's why everything else can wait till later, or more importantly, be done by someone else. You shouldn't, if the housework is stressing you out, get a cleaner, but don't do it yourself.
Yep.
I think, for example, for myself, it's like my goals after having that child there was only one goal: don't kill the kid. That was it. That was my one goal, and if I did that at the end of every day, I was thrilled. And I kind of like went in with it thinking, knowing or realizing that there were going to be breastfeeding problems, probably, but when they happened, I still was I was totally shaken by it.
Yeah.
But I think what you tell moms is great, that you have to give them that opportunity to fall in love and to learn to breastfeed, because we get so caught up in, the task-oriented primal urge to just keep that kid alive that we forget everything else, but at the same time we try and fit these molds with the cleaning and the fucking Thanksgiving dinner and the Christmas ornaments and whatever it is. But so
Well, and for somebody like me, like I do really love things to be, clean and organized, and I could definitely let it go. But I think that that's a really great point, Julia. Is if it does make you crazy, then okay, get somebody to come and clean, or get, or like reach out for help. I mean, if you let's actually talk about that a little bit. One of the points, I don't want to miss this one, because I really believe in just building your tribe. If you don't have family around, or if your family isn't supportive of the things that you want, you have to surround yourself with people that are supportive of the things that you want to do, because it's enough to be a parent and enough to try to be a new mom, but then to have to fight people on the things that you want to do, it's just not necessary. So one of the points that you said was, how can we build a modern village to support breastfeeding? So let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, again, I feel that the two kind of critical factors to breastfeeding success are, the first one is what we mentioned before, but understanding that feminine way of learning rather than, treating it as a mathematical problem or something. But the second thing that is missing from most women in our culture is that support. And an anthropologist, Dana Raphael, she couldn't breastfeed herself. She called herself a reflexive anthropologist. She actually coined the word doula to be a breastfeeding support person. So she is a very important and influential person in our culture to bring some of these messages across. And she found that in nearly 200 cultures around the world that she looked at, there was a specific person who would come and care for the mother, and that without that person, breastfeeding function wouldn't work. Like, it doesn't actually work if you don't have other people around supporting. Yeah. And that is really absolutely what we're missing in our culture, because we still have this idea that the mum is the only one who has to do everything for the baby, everything for the house, everything for the older kids, even taking care of her husband as though he's a child too. Yeah. And it's not how things are meant to be done. Yeah. And I'm going to try and keep this brief, but the other really important thing to know is we make this this assumption, we had this theory for a very long time, that human babies were born premature with premature brains because of the size of an upright pelvis. You've probably heard that before. It's not true. About 2 years ago or so, they did some research that found that actually an upright pelvis could sustain a much larger brain. Over evolution, our pelvis size could have grown bigger and we still could walk upright. So that's not the case. The new theory is that actually human babies, unlike all other animal species, have social brains, incredibly social brains. And these brains are designed to develop in a social environment with love, with cuddles, with skin on skin, with lots of people, loving them, interacting them, talking to them, singing to them, and that actually that's what that extra stage of brain development is for outside of the womb. But the critical thing is here, it was not done alone. This step in our evolution could only happen because of something called alloparenting. And in all hunter-gatherer cultures, all traditional societies, babies were parented by multiple adults. They were breastfed by a number of women. They were cared for by their aunties, uncles, older siblings, grandparents. It wasn't one mum and one baby, because this needs, the intense social needs of this baby, are more than one mother can give without burning herself out, you know, without sacrificing herself. So you really need to call in the troops. So whoever that is, if you don't feel like your family are the right people to support you, and the modern village might be paid help, like childcare, you know, like a lot of people have really bad ideas about nannies or childcare or anyone else looking after your baby other than you. Maybe if your sister or your mum isn't the ideal person to help you with childcare, then find someone who is, even if that's a paid person.
Yeah. Well, and you know, also too, it's so beneficial for us, but I think it's really beneficial for our kids too. That is one thing that I really feel kind of like, I don't want to say that I failed at, but the relationship that I had with some of my family was not very good because of the decisions that I decided to how I had decided to birth my baby and everything, you know, that kind of all the decisions I made and parenting and everything. But instead of, you know, the way that I would choose to do it now and having those conversations, it would be a lot different than I did before. And so my son missed out on, you know, having these relationships develop with my family, you know, because things probably could have turned out a little bit better if I wouldn't have been so defensive about, you know, the parenting styles that we chose and the way that we birthed. You know, I was one of the ones to have a home birth in my family, and everybody was scared for me, and I understand that they were scared. I wasn't. So, you know, I just kind of felt like, gosh, you know, I'm not. So, you know, I didn't really realize to take in everybody else's opinions and how they were feeling, you know. But definitely, I think that the relationship that that my son could have with the other people in my family, or just even setting up my village at that time, is not only beneficial for us, but beneficial for them too.
But I think that what you're saying is that even though it doesn't necessarily have to be family, it just matters that there be that interaction. And you know, you've always made sure that you and Jay have a very active and social day on, you know, daily life, day to day. So I think that, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's what you're saying, is that it's just the interaction, it's just the relationship that is
Absolutely.
fundamental.
Yeah, and not just for the baby, but for the mum as well, for everyone. I mean, humans are designed to connect with each other. And I'm a very introverted person, so, you know, a lot of times my chosen form of communication is on social media, you know.
Yeah.
So that's fine too, because they've really found that social media still uses your oxytocin in the same way that a hug does. So you need to find what works for you. There are no rights or wrongs. It might be your family. It might not be your family. You might not know anyone in your local area, or you live in a rural area where there's not, you know, neighbours close by. But find people who you connect with, and find people who you can share with, you know, who listen to you, who are compassionate, who are empathetic, who are non-judgmental, who don't give advice, you know.
Yeah.
But just find people to share this journey with, and that's really what makes it good.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. You know, in person is definitely a nice connection, but I mean, who there's tons of people out there online in the middle of the night when you're breastfeeding your baby. Like, you know, there's all these groups and everything. I mean, it really, the support can come that way too. I know we kind of talked a little bit about the anthropologist Dana Raphael and her just a little bit. Do you want to touch on it? I know we're kind of pretty much at 30 minutes. Right?
Oh, I think I covered it. That was really the main point I wanted to make, is that it's never been a job that was designed to do alone. You know, really, like, reach out, help, and whether help for you might mean friendships, it might mean family, it might mean a meal delivery, it might mean a cleaner, it might mean childcare, you know, like whatever that looks like for you, whatever is stressing you out, don't be afraid to ask other people to help you with that.
Yeah.
It's breaking the narrative. We're coming back to that phrase, MJ, you know, where we have to change that image of what it's supposed to look like, so that it's actually more real and less idealized or disillusioned, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. Well, and
Because
also too, I mean, I did have a baby moon with my son, and I did, have some people that brought meals, and oh my gosh, like I am most definitely. I gotta mute you, Erin. Sorry, baby. Here we go. There was just this background noise. But that is and was, and I mean, I continue when I know moms that have had babies to bring them meals, and just I think it's just kind of, I just know how much it means. And also I would just recommend, if you feel this pride coming on, just throw it aside because it really is powerful to spend that time with your baby and not have to worry about all this other stuff, and just and also for yourself, to give yourself that relaxation time, that time for your body to heal, and for your mind, to do what it needs to do after having been through childbirth and labor. So
and here's another pitch for Meal Train, hashtag Meal Train.
there you go.
Sign up for
Yeah.
Meal Trains.
I don't know if that's what you guys use, Julia, but for us over here, we do use like websites to set up meal trains and be able to get to.
Yeah, I usually use Meal Baby, but it's exactly the same thing.
Cool. Yeah. Awesome. Well, I have very much enjoyed this topic. I have such a passion for breastfeeding. So thank you, Julia, for coming on. And
Pleasure, thank you.
yes, yeah. And so you are like, are you 9 months, like ready to go?
Yes, I've just got a few weeks till the baby's due, so very close now. This is actually my last day of work, so
Awesome. Oh yeah. Well, I
yeah.
take that as a compliment that you squeezed me in.
She squeezed you in before she squeezes
Yes, a
whatever.
baby out.
Yay. Well, good luck to you, Mama. Thank you so much for your time and for your wisdom. I enjoyed speaking with you and learning from you, so thank you.
Thank you. Thanks very much for having me on the show.
All right, you guys. We're gonna stop here, but hopefully we will see you guys next week or in a couple weeks for another show. All right,
Yay.
thanks.